Hi, Tom. Thanks for joining us. To kick things off, could you give us an overview of DIN as an AVS testnet and what the primary goals are for this initiative?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Aiden. So DIN is becoming a autonomous verifiable service, or AVS, and on a journey to accomplish that by deploying on mainnet, we first have three phases of test nets that we're running in order to work through all the scenarios, edge cases, and ensuring that our deployment processes are working as expected. So the reason that DIN is going to be an autonomous verifiable service is that it allows us to enforce the service level agreements in the DIN marketplace between the DIN providers and the gateways, utilizing the information that comes from the watchers. And so as a AVS, what we can then do is enforce that providers are being um, rewarded for their uptime and their good performance, and at the same time use sort of like a successive pokes to um, stick, like sort of um, reward slash punishment system that ensures that everyone is going to do what they say they're going to do. So on the reward side, for giving good performance and meeting SLA, we can use the AVS system to provide those rewards to the integrated providers, the integrated gateways, and the watchers. On the sort of like poke side, so not like um, a full penalty, we can remove rewards for any time that there's downtime or not meeting expected service. And then we can also remove volumes of traffic, which would also impact how much a provider is paid. So both paid and rewarded. On the far end, for really egregious breaches of an SLA, an example would be you say that you're gonna provide uh, the Ethereum service, and then it turns out via the Watcher API that a different blockchain network was being um, queried and that data was provided to customers. That would be an SLA breach, and that would incur a slashing event. And so, what being an AVS allows for us is to integrate those rewards, those pokes and prods, and the ultimate sort of slashing enforcement into the system and have different states for the participants that would correlate to whether they're getting rewards, whether they're getting or not getting traffic, and whether they're getting slashed. Um, and so we're doing three test nets that allow us to essentially ensure that one, we have all the sort of proper onboarding and creation of services, which are called operator sets in the AVS lingo, um, set up correctly, that providers are able to join appropriately, that watchers and gateways are able to join appropriately. We also need to test all those sort of reward and penalty conditions, including slashing and going through standard happy paths to edge cases that we've identified and seeing how the system results in that. And then we also want to use our final test net as a way to be essentially a full mock of what we would see with the mainnet deployment. So that means actually running and observing the system, taking the inputs, and having the resultant outputs as well. And there's also opportunities there to test out like how we might have to upgrade certain smart contracts in the system, or potentially migrate to new smart contracts in certain scenarios. So it gives us essentially a testing ground, a test bed to do that. So that's the purpose of the AVS testnet phases. We've already completed one. We're in the midst of another, and we are spinning up the start of our third one. Our intention is to do three um, with potentially the third one continuing on as we go to mainnet and sort of being that additional testing ground for us to continue to um, refine uh, our our mainnet as new releases of software come out.
Thanks for that detailed overview, Tom. It's clear that these testnet phases are crucial for ensuring the robustness and reliability of DIN's AVS. Now, shifting focus a bit, which technology providers have you partnered with, and how have they contributed to the testing and reliability of the AVS so far?
Yeah, we have been very fortunate that essentially all of our providers are opting in to the test nets in various phases. So in our initial test net, we had a smaller cohort of providers participate based off of their availability. And we were able to get still a sizable percentage of our providers to participate. So in that first test net, we had a watcher partner. That watcher partner being our compare nodes, and we also were able to have um, our DIN provider partners, which um, which consisted of Rivet, Liquify, Grove, um, Imstones, um, Zero X Fury, Northwest nodes, and Everstake all participated in that testnet. As we're going into testnet 0.2, those providers are continuing to participate, but we're also and a validation cloud was also part of that one as well. As we go to 0.2, we've also been joined by Nodies, um, BlockPi, all nodes, um, Beware, Alchemy via their Beware Labs group, and we are continuing to collaborate with all the existing partners that I mentioned. And Node Fleet as well. Node Fleet is also part of that group. So we've at this point, in addition to those partners, we are also working with the Eigen Labs team directly. We're also working with partner AltLayer on the extension to the middleware smart contracts, and they've been working with us on that. We've been working with BuildBear, which is a cloud sandbox provider, blockchain sandbox provider and testing environment, and a team called TXTX, which creates run books that allow us to go through the various onboarding flows that we have. So we worked with all those teams on testnet 0.1, and they're helping us with 0.2 and 0.3. And we expect that there will be, as we go into 0.3, additional partners. Basically, every partner in DIN will be part of that. And we'll also see an initial group of providers or service providers who work in um, the multi-party compute space will participate in also role-based access control. So as we go into testnet 0.3, we'll probably be announcing some additional partners who will be sort of riding along with testnet 0.2 to watch, and so that we can get everything set up for testnet 0.3. So it's a large set of participants, which is great because that is what you want in an AVS, and there's value in doing these test nets because it allows for the coordination of those various providers together. Because if you're having like 16, 17 providers participate in this test net and then additional technology providers, you want the practice of coordinating and communicating with each other to be established over multiple iterations, in this case, three, because it gets us to a point where we go live on mainnet and we continue to add new services through adding new operator sets as we add additional APIs on the DIN marketplace. It really becomes critical for those teams to already have that rapport with each other and have that um, experience to draw on of interacting with each other to maintain this system.
That's impressive, Tom. It sounds like a well-coordinated effort with a diverse group of partners. Moving forward, could you walk us through the different phases of the AVS testnet and the key milestones you're aiming to achieve in each phase?
Yeah, so for testnet 0.1, which has already wrapped and was our kickoff, what we were testing was implementation of the eigenlayer middleware and the extension to that middleware that we worked with AltLayer to build. Also to test out onboarding of providers to the AVS in general, as well as onboarding to their operator sets and going through a mocked qualification process. We uh, completed all that. We learned a lot about how the user experience was of being able to onboard to the AVS and then to the operator sets. And so there's a balance that comes out of that of trying to make it as user-friendly as possible, but also having the AVS operators who are onboarding understand the steps that they're taking in the onboarding process, essentially what they're signing when they're, sending ETH, in this case, testnet ETH, or in a future, in testnet 0.2, there's going to be, staked ETH. They need to know, like, where are they sending that? What address are they interacting with? What function are they calling? So the outputs of that was really understanding the user experience in the flows. In testnet 0.2, it's to refine those flows and also to test out all the slashing conditions and like onboarding, offboarding edge cases. So in the event that an operator set has no more participants in it, being able to keep it available, but also to not return any responses if that is like queried because there's no provider back there. So sort of having those right edge cases mapped out and testing them that they're operating as we thought. When we go into testnet 0.3, that is going to be a full simulation of what mainnet would be. So in that case, we're testing every part of the system, but in a way that should be an exact one-to-one of the modeling that we would see. And then we'd be able to simulate how rewards would go out and basically do all the sort of statistics and reporting based off of that, because it would be based off of how DIN is working right now in terms of serving traffic. So we have, we're going to wrap testnet 0.2 as we come to the end of the month of May. And then testnet 0.3 will, we've already started work for preparations on that because we're really aiming to have that in full flow by mid-June. So there's some onboarding processes and things that will happen over the first half of June. We want that to run through June and July. We have some buffer time in order to be able to continue to, if we need to, run scenarios. And there's a possibility that with that third testnet, that might be a longer persisting testnet because that would allow us to continue to test out any potential changes to software upgrades in an environment that allows us to have confidence before we make any changes to a mainnet deployment. So that, going through those phases, we started on this at the beginning of the year with prepping for testnet zero point 0.1, and we ran zero point 0.1 from the tail end of February through March, and then we used April to sort of take that information, make changes, get feedback from partners, really think about that experience and roll it into what's becoming the next phases of, 0.2, which is ongoing, and then 0.3, which will fast follow after that.
Great to see how each phase builds on the previous one, ensuring a smooth and reliable rollout. With that comprehensive testing approach, what are some of the key challenges you anticipate in rolling out these autonomously verifiable services, and how are you planning to address them?
So for us, like the most important thing is ensuring that value flows are understood on behalf of the providers, and that the right steps are taken to secure all um, all addresses that are being used in these test nets. So what we there's steps that we can take to ensure that the code that we've written is um, audited, right? Like we can go through multiple audits to ensure that the code doesn't have vulnerabilities, both common and uncommon vulnerabilities. So there's common vulnerabilities that smart contracts could be in common ways that smart contracts can be exploited. And so it's key in the development process to identify and know what those are, and then make sure that those vectors of exploitation don't exist. Then you go through an audit to really prove that into, through using fuzzing, using other testing procedures. You can basically do a very comprehensive job of reducing the likelihood of those risks existing by testing using those scenarios. Once that's all done, the key is to make sure that sort of like the human in the loop element is that the risks there are appropriately minimized. Because even when we take a comprehensive look at the code that's written and the audits that are done, if a if the proper security procedures aren't taken with regards to signing, staking, that becomes a vector of potential failure. And so how we address that is when we do these phases, we're basically exposing areas where there's confusion on the part of the AVS operator, which we can then address by making the flow cleaner, by showing a verified smart contract, providing additional information that allows them to do a comparison of like, am I signing what I say I should be signing? Can I verify it over here? Is it also available on an independently verifiable block explorer? All of these steps to make sure that you're essentially creating a checklist that allows the AVS operator to go through, follow it confidently, stake the value that they need to stake, and then understand the sort of principles around, when they get rewards, when there would be a removal of rewards, and the slashing conditions. Then we also get to test out all of the slashing conditions and the specifics around how those are confirmed. And through that confirmation process, we can test all these edge cases to see, um, you know, where we might have to mitigate potential risk in terms of, not allowing for a false slash to happen, right? Or a slash that shouldn't happen to happen, or a slash that is valid, but maybe the impact is such that you don't actually want to put it into practice. You want to override that. So we have all these scenarios to be able to do that. And then that allows us to actually build essentially a guidebook of everything that would happen, all the documentation. So if there's any operator that's going to join at a future point, they're able to review that, see what happened, and feel confident in the system. It also creates confidence for any other participant who may be thinking about like staking in this AVS, or ultimately just a consumer of a gateway that's using DIN, right? Like we want to provide all the documentation and the proof that we've done uh, all of the work needed that the risk is sufficiently mitigated and minimized to prevent any loss of funds, loss of value, or contagion effect. And that's like really key because that's how you build a AVS that the whole community around an AVS truly believes in.
That makes a lot of sense. Ensuring clarity, security, and trust through these rigorous testing phases is crucial. On that note, what are some of the key challenges you anticipate in rolling out these autonomously verifiable services, and how are you planning to address them?
The key for us is just education, education, education. Like everyone who's participating in our ecosystem is bombarded with tons of signal all the time. And so we're just going to make sure that we're constantly educating our AVS operators, our technology partners, our future customers of the gateways to understand what we're doing and why we're doing it. And I think that the challenges, while there are like technical challenges of implementing any code, a lot of the challenges are understanding the system and making it as simple to understand as possible while preserving the ability to like go deeper and understand the first principles design of it. So that's going to be really critical and continuous. Even after we go to mainnet, I think we're always going to be in a period of like having to educate um, participants in this system because they're sort of on a spectrum and on a journey in participating. We have partners who are already participating in AVSs, like AIDIN, for example. And so their education is going to look different than an AVS operator who is going to be an AVS operator for the first time. And so that is like for us, the details are the devil is in the details, and the details is like in the operational implementation of all this.
Absolutely. Keeping everyone informed and aligned is key. That brings me to another important point. For developers and operators, those who provide capital and run the software for the AVS, what should they know and how can they get involved effectively?
Right. So we're very fortunate that our current group of AVS uh, operators who are participating in testnet are also our DIN service providers. So, our in testnet 0.3, the intention is every DIN service provider will be part of that. And so that will be perfect, a one-to-one where everyone that is serving traffic on DIN currently will be part of that testnet. But as we think about the future DIN providers who may be adding a new service, um, reach out to us because we want to have conversations with um, you as service providers. And we're going to be publishing we've already published information in our white paper, but we're going to continue this approach of publishing more information and updates about what we're doing. And so you can get in touch with us at our email din at consensus.net, and we would love to have conversations if this is something that you're interested in participating in. Um, as for the potential stakers, the same uh, offer applies that you can reach out, but additionally, um, over the coming weeks and next few months, we'll also be um, doing our best to sort of put together virtual type events and opportunities to actually show off what we're doing, show off the AVS operators who will be part of this system, and really kind of do a virtual meet and greet to better understand our system and the participants in it. So look for those because that will be something we'll be setting up, and that will be something that we can also, draw from the data of the test nets to show what we're doing for mainnet. And we think that's going to make it much easier for a potential staker to come and actually look at those data and feel that they have a really great view of what we're trying to build and a view of the upside.
That sounds like a solid plan. Creating transparency and offering those engagement opportunities will definitely help attract and reassure stakeholders. Before we wrap up, what other features are coming into DIN that you're excited about, and is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, I think like I'm really excited that in the coming weeks, we right now we're supporting JSON RPC APIs, but we will be adding we'll be moving into the REST API space, and that's really exciting. So you'll see from us in probably the coming like 6 to 8 weeks an announcement of our first supported REST API, and I think that opens up a lot of opportunities for additional services on DIN, as well as there are going to be over the course of the rest of this quarter additional announcements of new networks that we're really excited about. I can't talk about them now. They're in the works. They're in progress. Um, we're always expanding, adding new networks, and that's really exciting. So very proud of the hard work of the team and also a lot of other individuals within the community that have made that happen. And yeah, we have some exciting new launches about to hit. So stay tuned.
That all sounds incredibly promising. Thanks so much for sharing, Tom. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up?
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. This has been a fantastic conversation. We really appreciate your insights and look forward to seeing how DIN continues to evolve. To learn more about DIN, go to din.build.